Okay, so it is 10:02 and we are going to get started. As I put in the chat, if anyone wants to use closed captioning, we do have that available. It's within the Zoom sort of application here at the bottom with all the other buttons. Like to say good morning. My name is Adam Pearl. I'm president and CEO of ArtPride New Jersey. So I'll do a small self-description for anyone who might need. I am a white man in my early 40s with short, dark brown hair. I'm clean shaven. I'm wearing a dark gray shirt today, and there's kind of a grayish beige wall behind me. So glad that everyone could join us this morning. We have a ton of information, so we're going to jump right into it. I did want to let you know just a few housekeeping rules. We do like to use the Q&A feature. So if you have a question for our presenters or for myself over the course of this morning, feel free to put that in there and we'll do our best to answer those. We also have the chat feature. So sometimes we'll drop a link in there or two, and feel free to use that. And because we do have a lot of information, we always record these webinars. So we have all this information saved and we'll be posting it to our website. We usually get it up later the same day or the next day. So this information will be up if you need to go back and review something, or if you have a colleague who you think would benefit from viewing but couldn't join us this morning. I know, as I saw my friend Michelle Baxter-Schaefer from the Arts Council say, a lot of auto replies in the New Jersey arts industry in August, but we're so glad that we have great participation this morning. We had over 100 folks registered. So with that, I'm going to introduce you, see him, Jim Atkinson, ArtPride's Director of Programs and Services. And Jim is going to take us away for our update on the reopening campaigns to welcome the public back and how that's looking, especially with all of our continuing challenges. Thanks, Jim.
Hey, thanks, Adam. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for taking some time to join us this morning as we discuss a topic that's definitely been on our minds here at ArtPride since relatively early on in the pandemic. But before we get started, I want to say, as Adam mentioned, my name is Jim Atkinson. I am the Director of Programs and Services at ArtPride. I am a white male in my early 50s with short black hair. I got the memo, so I'm also wearing a dark gray shirt. So thanks, Adam, to make sure the ArtPride team was on color. And I have a kind of messy background behind me. I apologize for that. So as I mentioned, what we really wanted to talk about here is a strategy that we've been thinking about for a while, and that is how we can partner with our friends at the State Arts Council, as well as the Division of Travel and Tourism, to support the field by promoting a safe return to the arts for audiences when that time came. So this is something we've been discussing for quite a while. And to do that effectively, we convened a task force through the Jersey Arts Marketers Network. This group has been meeting since the fall of last year. And it's comprised of, as you can see, members of the ArtPride team, members of the State Arts Council staff, as well as some leaders from throughout the Jersey Arts Marketers Network. And this group came up with essentially a two-tiered strategy. We wanted to start off with a summer campaign focused on outdoor events, and then follow that up with the fall campaign. It's a more robust, kind of more full reopening campaign. That's the strategy that we've been working under. So today, what I'm going to do is do a quick recap about what we've been doing over the summer, as well as transition to a discussion about what is being planned for fall. And as Adam mentioned, any questions, definitely feel free to drop them in the chat as we go, and we'll be able to do our best to answer those. So the goals for summer, obviously, as we mentioned, was promoting outdoor events, this to increase consumer confidence in returning to the arts coming out of COVID. Also kind of loosen the ground a little bit for the fall campaign to get folks used to being out and about again. And then to also demonstrate best practices in public messaging around COVID safety. So I'm going to show you a quick spot of what this transitioned into, which has been our Summer Stages campaign.
This summer, it's time to rediscover the arts you love at jerseyarts.com/summerstages. Find outdoor concerts to lift your spirits, open air art that speaks without words, theater performances to stir the soul, dance that puts stories in motion, and pop-up films that bring you the world. Head to jerseyarts.com/summer stages. Your ticket to fun under the sun.
I realize that may not have been the absolute best quality audio or video, so I apologize for that. But rest assured, that's because it's being done on a webinar and through a presentation. The audio video quality was clearly much better when it hit broadcast. And you can see this on our website, also through our social media. So the deliverables for the campaign has been a rotating mix of 25 to 30 events that have been featured on the website throughout the summer. That was reinforced and supported through an advertising PR campaign, a combination of paid and organic social combined with email. Also supported through feature stories and video packages and podcasts that we've been producing over the summer, and working with not only the State Arts Council, but also the New Jersey Theater Alliance, the development of a series of COVID safety symbols that we've been using and promoting, but also making available to the field so that you all have access to them and can use them without having to create your own. Somewhat in a desire to create some semblance of this is the kind of things you should be looking for when you're talking to the public, and also to frankly save you guys some money so you don't have to develop your own. So again, that launched in early June and will be running through early September. This is what that kind of looks like on the website. You can see this is just a screen grab of how the event messaging has looked. And this is a screen grab of what those podcasts and feature stories and video packages, like how that's been presented online. Again, these are the safety symbols that the task force came up with. And as I mentioned, they're available for download at the URL you see on your screen. So you can still grab these. These are available now. Feel free to use them. Please use them. What we've been promoting is that look for these symbols or symbols like these when you're looking to attend events, so that we haven't necessarily couched it that everybody's going to use these exact same ones, but look for these or symbols like these. So that's, again, I don't want to take too much time on that piece of it, but definitely wanted to do a recap. If you have events coming up this summer, as I mentioned, those events that are being featured are rotating. So you can reach out to ArtPride. I'm going to do a quick thing at the end to tell you who to reach out to for what, but definitely there'll be opportunities where you can still let us know what you're doing. So as we transition to fall, I want to introduce our friend here at Spark Creative Group, Chris Rocco, who's the creative director and managing partner. He worked with us on the creation of Summer Stages and is working with us on the fall reopening campaign. So Chris, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you.
Awesome. Thanks. Everyone can hear me? All right. Excellent. All right. So we basically, Jim sort of set this up. If you want to kind of pick up with the thinking around Summer Stages, this is kind of the more advanced, fully opened up version of Summer Stages. I think we spent this season with the summer events getting people used to the idea of getting back out again and enjoying the arts kind of near or far. Fall reopening is kind of the full realization of what the task force has been working on for really, when you think about it, it's been almost a year and a half at this point. So some of the goals of this it sort of pivots a little off of Summer Stages because we're really bringing people back indoors. So you'll see that as like kind of like the constant for like the why and the how we're thinking through some of this creative. So just to go through the goals, driving visitor traffic back into the venues, of course. We spent a lot of time discussing audience motivations, trying to get to the crux of with our typical patron audiences and then our maybe newer to the arts audiences. What is it that they're sort of missing? What is it we're really going to tap into to sort of get them out and get them back in? And then critical to that, obviously, is going to be talking about safety precautions. And we'll get into a little bit later. I'll discuss some of the shots and some of the things that may be involved in some of the ads that'll help do that. And then lastly, basically reflecting diversity of the industry itself, as well as our audiences. And I know we all all do that and sort of strive to do that in our work. This campaign will be no different. So we're going to be spanning in not only age, race, male, female, the whole 9 yards will be put into kind of how we craft the TV commercial. And I'll probably focus a little bit on talking about the commercial today so we get an idea of what the fallout will be through all the ads. Pardon. All right, so capturing some of the creative. So after a lot of discussion with all the members of the task force, the sort of, I guess, iconic motivator were the moments that people actually are missing and craving during the pandemic. So, the fact that, and we discussed that the arts are kind of, they mean multiple things to multiple audiences. So with different buckets of our population, some are missing the social camaraderie, some are missing just the event aspect of just getting out and doing things. And then it sort of drills down deeper into the art forms themselves. People are directly influenced with opera, dance, live performance theater, live musical performances. So it's sort of that gamut of like, everyone has a reason why they're attached to the arts and what would sort of get them into a space again. And we've sort of honed in on the word moments. So that's going to be key in the theme as well as the slogan and the design for the campaign. Rooted at the base of all this have been messages pretty consistent from even the Keep Jersey Arts Alive campaigns, where we've emphasized the local impacts of the arts. Obviously, through the pandemic, we've raised the safety message, which we're doing both through iconography that you just saw, as well as some of the visual messages that we'll have on TV. And so that's basically leading up to the open message, which now has kind of varying levels, I guess, to all of us who are in different degrees of what is open, when are we opening, what does open mean to us in our specific case. And then sort of lastly, maybe goes without saying, we'll have 2 versions of the series. So even down to the 30-second commercial and the audio commercials, there'll be a performing arts version and then a visual arts version. And they'll kind of overlap. They might have like different dynamics. When I talk through the creative, I'll speak to some of those. And go to the next one, Jim. So deliverables on this campaign, I would say similar to Summer Stages, a larger budget and probably additional media for the time frame, which Jim will get into later. But definitely full-on advertising, both. I would say print is a possibility as we move forward, and as some of our transit options and things open up a little bit and there's traffic there, but it definitely will be paid digital, paid social, organic social, and then a full PR campaign that looks like this time will have some enhanced efforts with some sort of opinion leaders online and social influencers along those lines. And we'll be working out the details of that. Our email blasts, oh, sorry, got ahead of myself there. Our email blasts are definitely a part of it, handled internally with ArtPride. We'll be producing artwork and campaign content for those. So to add to what Jim was speaking out before, there'll be some additional safety symbols. We're basically operating in real time, as all of you are as well. We're going to be adding a proof of vaccination symbol and a COVID test required. And it might be sort of a 72-hour COVID test required, but that might vary by venue. So there'll be further discussion on that. So those will be new. Searchable online arts directory on the website, which I know Jim and his team are working on. That'll be very key in people kind of drilling down to specific venues and saying, well, what is open, what's going on, what are sort of the dynamics of each key location. Obviously, a rotating mix of highlighted arts events will branch off from the fall campaign. What will happen is as things get submitted, Cora and Emily and the ArtPride team will parse those out into individual sort of wrapped graphics that they'll be able to post online that'll highlight specific offerings during the campaign window, which again, Jim will get into later. And it goes without saying, similar to summer stages, feature stories, the video packages, and podcasts will continue to roll with the new campaign pickup, which again is all getting buttoned up with the moments you've been waiting for as sort of the overall logo and tagline. And certainly if anyone has any questions all the way, I know Adam is fielding those as well, and Jim can respond also. Do we go into timing at this point, Jim? Are we? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Good segue.
I think this is probably one of the what has been one of the most difficult pieces to lock down, right? The creative working through a task force actually came together pretty quickly. And despite all the changes that the roller coaster ride we've all been going on, the creative hasn't really altered much. I mean, a little bit, certainly, but the theme of it has been pretty much consistent. But the timing, has been difficult to lock down for obvious reasons. And we're going into this with the realization that there's not a light switch moment, right? There's not going to be the entire arts industry is closed on Friday and then the entire arts industry is open on Monday, right? That's not going to happen. But we want to make sure that the timing of this is not too early, not too late, meaning that the majority of groups are open in a sustainable way, or at the very least, you have your pre-sales open so that if the public is interested and goes to the website and is directed to your sites, there are things for them to act on, right? We don't want to talk about everybody being open and then the majority of the groups are still not open yet. But we also don't want to be behind in that you're already opening and you're already trying to get the public sentiment up and we're not there to help you. So it's tricky. Where we've come up with at our last task force meeting, which was literally like a week ago, was a launch window between September 27 and October 4, and then having that be a 2-month run. Now, this is again, this is not 100% locked down, but this is where we've most recently landed. So Adam, were there some questions coming in or should I just keep going? Yeah.
There is one question
Sure.
so far. Folks, feel free to do more. And then I know we have some questions for you coming up, the audience, coming up momentarily. Anita Thomas from Carolyn Dorfman Dance, who's on ArtPride's board. Good morning, Anita. Thanks for always joining us. Has 2 questions here. So the first is, are the COVID safety symbols downloadable for organizations, which they absolutely are. And when I get off doing these questions, I'll put that in the chat. I'll put that link in the chat for folks. And then second, and Chris, maybe you can answer this. So when you're doing the placement and the advertisement and purchase and working with the ArtPride team on that, what's the criteria for selecting social media influencers? Like how does that sort of work? Can you enlighten us a little bit?
A little bit, yeah. And Jim, we actually discussed this a little bit yesterday. So it's actually evolved to the point where we'll work with our PR firm for sure. It's basically a PR partner that we continually use. We have a bunch of them. What's happening in social space is there are specialty firms, which similar to how a PR firm would have that sort of targeted focus. You're getting the same for social media influencer firms. They're kind of reps, in sort of a way to say it, or agents for social media folks. So what they do is they hunt and seek out people that are scoring high in certain criteria. They look at friends, followers, and engagements, and then it starts to drill down into sort of like the arts and entertainment space, and then we're obviously hoping to drill further down into performing arts and visual arts in that space. And then I guess regionality would become, a piece of that. So we have one specific one that we're going to engage and see what we can evolve there. And then Jim also had another firm, which is a similar, performs a similar function. So that's basically it. It's kind of like, sports agents. They'll get represented, you pay them a fee. Depending, I think the nonprofit status may be some slight wiggle room, or at least some conversation as to whether or not those posts will have to be tagged as paid sponsorship. That's something that came up in a staff meeting with us the other day, and we're certainly going to look into that. Yeah, we've always done it through PR traditionally, but we might engage the specific social companies this time around. Sorry for a long-winded answer.
No, because I think you handled that. I think you handled that really well. So, Anita, does that answer the question? Adam,
So
you're
I think
muted.
that helps too. And there are a couple other questions that are just coming in here,
Sure.
Jim. Because the next part is I'm trying to remember is we're going to do some polling questions, right? So
Mhm.
maybe it's a good time to answer some questions.
Yep.
So Katrina Browning is asking, I feel like things have changed within the last week. Our book festival is planned for October 2nd, and we're now looking to switch to half virtual events. What is your general take on the situation? So Katrina, stay tuned, because that's what we're gonna sort of be asking folks is where they're at right now. And I know other folks are thinking that way as well. And I also want to, so Faith has said, says proof of vaccination and COVID tests required. How are you handling this? And Faith is foreshadowing here a little bit. So, a little spoiler alert that we are trying to adapt as much as possible in real time. And we do have some additional safety symbols that are going to come out that are going to address those as well. So the same thing for, many arts organizations have the resources to be able to create these safety symbols on their own, but most don't. And that's a big part of what this is be able to do, is to be able to support those organizations that need that don't, so they don't have to lay out those expenses themselves. So that is absolutely coming, and those will be added too. And this is a question, because I was just trying to find that link, Jim. Those icons, those icons, they can be downloaded individually, right? As well as a set.
Well, I think the way it's set up is you download them as a set, but they can be easily pulled apart. Right?
Okay.
Yeah, we looked at provide them individually, but it was a pretty big lift. And the reality was, when you download the package of them, you can just pull one apart pretty simply. So that seemed like a pretty easy thing. So yeah, they are available. We'll share that link for sure. Again, and they'll stay up there. As far as addressing the COVID test required or the vaccination required, I mean, this is a relatively new thing that's been happening. We know that groups are doing it across the country. This is becoming a bit of a trend. I think that there are some groups in New Jersey that have started testing the waters with this. So we're not making any assumptions on your behalf. We're just providing you the tools that, should you decide to go that route, we're just going to try to help reinforce that. But we're certainly not in any way, making any statements that everyone's going to be doing one thing or another. We're just providing that sort of context for the public. If that makes sense. Okay. Great. And as far as the timing goes, I mean, you're absolutely right. This is a full-on moving target. So we had originally slated to want to launch this campaign earlier in September. We've pushed that back, and it is entirely possible it gets pushed back again. I mean, this is not a carved in stone deadline, although we are at a point where we're going to be entering into production in September, because we want to make sure that we have the assets together, so that should we want to go ahead and pull the trigger and launch it, we can. But if for some reason it needs to be delayed, we can delay it, but we're still at that point ready to go quickly, versus continuing to delay production, which will put us kind of behind the eight ball, that if we do need to rush something out, we won't have it together. So we are looking to at least move into production in early to mid-September, and be prepared for this launch date. But it is possible. I mean, this definitely changed in our thinking. It's funny, we had 2 task force meetings a month apart, and even the creative tone was like, oh, we shouldn't really show much masking. And then we had the next meeting like, oh, we're definitely going to be showing masking. So it is certainly, we are trying our best to adapt to, kind of what's happening out there, and things are changing pretty radically. So we're doing our best to stay on top of it. And again, going back to that, we don't want to be too early. We don't want to be too late. And as Adam mentioned, we're going to be asking some poll questions to help inform this decision, because we need your input. So. All right, so that's a great segue. So let's do some polling. And bear with me here as I get these set up. So the first one is in reference to that very question. So we're going to put a poll up in the field right now. When are you reopening? So you can see there are a few options. I'll leave this sit there for a minute so everybody has a chance to respond, whether you're open now, whether you're going to be opening at some point in the fall, in the early winter, in January, or even beyond that. So we're going to let this sit for a moment here. Give everybody a chance. Okay, I still see some votes coming in. Okay, looks like things are slowing down. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. Last chance, last call. Okay, so I'm going to also go ahead and share the results. So what we're seeing here is, the majority of the groups seem to either be open now or will be opening in the fall, which is kind of what we've been hearing. I mean, that's anecdotally what we've been hearing through the task force, and knowing that this could all change like tomorrow if something crazy happens. This seems to be pretty consistent with what we were thinking. So that, although I know this is certainly not scientific and it's only based on the folks who are here today, but that definitely does kind of reinforce what our general timing has looked like. So another important question, will you be requiring audiences to provide that proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test? So this poll will be a select all that applies. This could be a multiple choice versus this straight up yes, no. Thank you all for voting. I still see some votes coming in. That's great.
Jim, I just wanted to throw out there too something that someone had mentioned to us, which is we get that this is an exact science and this isn't doesn't mean the same thing for everyone. So we're just asking everybody to do their best to answer as the best as it makes sense to them, and hopefully that gives us a general sense. And I also wanted to add that I know surveys and polls and stuff can be arduous, but they do, help us as an art service organization get a feel for what's going on around the state, in addition to all of the communications that we do. So whether it's this or whether it might be, additional information we ask now or in the near future, we just ask everybody to participate, share it with your colleagues, help us spread the word. The more input, the better we can be at doing our jobs and supporting you.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. That's a great point. And we can follow this up with a full-on survey of these exact same questions. That wouldn't be hard, but I know folks are pretty surveyed out, but
maybe down the road, maybe
a
few weeks from now that makes more sense, or a month. We'll leave that to the task force. That's why that task force exists, to help us again give direction with a nice variety of folks from across the field and across the state. So I just want to put it out there, and when you get those surveys from ArtPride, share them. Share them with your colleagues, share them with other arts organizations. To make sure that we're getting as much of a input as possible.
Okay, so it looks like again, this is based just on, and believe me, we're very much understanding this is based on today at 10:31 a.m., which could change by 11:30 this morning, but based on where we are at this specific moment in time, a fair amount of organizations are at least planning or considering, we'll put it that way, providing some proof of vaccination and or a negative COVID test. So that's, again, just good information for us to know about. Additionally, this is a two-part question. Will you be requiring patrons to be masked, and will your house staff be masked? So I'm going to put this one out. This is our last poll, so we won't bother you too much more with these, but this is definitely helpful information, as Adam mentioned.
I just want to share some of the comments that are coming in while people are voting. And I get it. So for some people, we're saying that it's not really a yes or no as the landscape keep changes for them. You know, Ann Sears at Westminster High End was saying that they're still trying to decide on vaccination. They're testing for the audience. And another folks said they are requiring participants and artists to be vaccinated. So just sharing some of the comments, because I know on the webinar, chat can be that way.
Yeah, and again, I'll share that through some of the joint meetings we've been having with the Theater Alliance team, who's done a lot of research on this. There is proof that arts audiences tend to be vaccinated at a very high level. So if you're considering it, again, this is all, I mean, I'm not qualified to really give anything in depth on this. I'm just kind of sharing information, you know, that's already been put out there. Is that it does seem as if our audiences are highly vaccinated. So that may not be much of a pushback on it if you were to go that route. But yeah, go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
I was just going to jump in just to be clear here. This question you're asking more for the fall reopening campaign rather
Correct.
than outside now, because Steve Steiner down at Surflight Theater, member of the ArtPride board, our treasurer, who obviously does a lot of outside events, was saying, you know, they're not sure about once they move out inside. Right now, they're not requiring masks outside currently in their tent. But yeah, we are focused on the fall reopening campaign. So folks are confused about now versus, you know, what the fall might look like.
Yeah, sorry if that wasn't clear, but yes, we are. This is about fall. Yeah, thank you, Adam, for clarifying that. So it looks like we've got a lot of folks in. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll up. And not shockingly, you know, the majority of groups will be asking patrons to be masked and will be masking their house staff. And that's the kind of stuff that will reflect in the creative of the campaign. Like we'll show that to make it clear.
Anita added a comment. Anita Thomas, sorry to call her Anita. As I introduced her before, Anita said, obviously they're a dance company and they would prefer the venues to require vaccinations and have masks. They are having their dancers and staff mandating that they be vaccinated and wear masks indoors. So again, just to share some of what other folks are doing around the state.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So again, we're not treating that as scientific evidence, but again, this is just more data that we're collecting. This won't be the only way we'll make these decisions, but you're all here and we'd be crazy not to ask your input on these kind of questions while we've got your attention today. All right, so some additional FAQs. You know, how do you get featured on jerseyarts.com, right? So we alluded to this earlier. For the online directory that's being put together right now, there's nothing you need to do. If your group is part of the JAM network, which means that you're an ArtPride member organization, you're a direct grantee of the State Arts Council, or you're a member of the Theater Alliance, you're already going to have a directory listing built for you. That's the universe that we're doing it for at the moment, and that's being built, you know, for you. There's nothing else to do. There will be a mechanism for you to let us know if you want to edit it once it's launched, but that's being built. If you're not sure if you're part of the JAM network, I would encourage you to reach out to Megan and the ArtPride membership team, and she is MLOBUE at artpridenj.org. And Adam, if you want to drop that into the chat, that's who you can reach out just to see what your status is if you're in the JAM network. But it's a pretty broad group. I think we're over 350 organizations in that network, so it's pretty robust. If you're interested in having an event listed in the fall events guide, again, this is an event messaging guide similar to what we've done for summer stages. Stay tuned for details because we're kind of working that out right now. But you'll get information about how to do that. And Emily Ambash, which is EAMBASH at artpridenj.org, is the person you could ask specific questions to when that time comes. And if you're interested in having one of your events, be it this summer or be it in the fall, selected for a feature story or a podcast or one of the video packages that we have, for those who aren't familiar, we have a team of freelance journalists that work with us to create that content. and Corin Rife, which is KRIFE at artpridenj.org. Corin is in essence the assignment editor for that. So she does the selection of what's going to get featured or not featured. Is this a podcast? Is it a feature story? That can be funneled through her. But the best place really to do this versus email is this URL that's up on the screen now, which is artpridenj.org/Jersey Arts Content. That's where we tend to post what we're looking for and how you can reach out to us about it. So that's really the most efficient way to find out what's going on. So that's in essence the conversation for what we're doing in the summer, what we're planning for the fall. Again, we'll be working really closely with the task force and any final decision making as we're getting kind of up against the production timeline window. But I want to thank everybody for the input you've been sharing with us today and for your time.
We have a couple.
There's some more updates. Yeah.
I just want to. I just want to just jump in here just because there's a couple questions here. So one, just to really focus on to make sure that the folks know that there is still time left in that summer stages campaign. So if you have events, because that did pop up just now, if you have events that are happening, in the next few weeks or so, and they're outdoor events, that because that's really what summer stages is focused on. You can submit those, but please focus those only on events in that time frame and that are outdoor. That's specifically what that campaign is for. We did put those emails in there. Megan is messaging me with a smile here and saying there's nothing groups have to do to be included in the directory. She really wants to emphasize that. But we do have Julia on our team who is emailing info requests out to everyone in that group. So you might be getting an email from an ArtPride team member. We're really asking that you respond to that so that we can build that directory and have the most correct and updated information. The other thing I wanted to say that I posted was if you're not an ArtPride member right now, because we've deferred membership until January 2022, we do have the introductory membership program open. So if you're not an ArtPride member and right now you can join for free. We're really trying to grow the amount of folks that are in the ArtPride family. And I'm getting more messages here. Emily wants me to make sure to say that you'll only be emailed if we need more info. Otherwise, don't worry. Don't panic. If you don't get an email, you'll be in the directory. We promise. Okay. There is a question here, Jim, for you. Is there any standard verbiage available for the safety protocol agreements between venues and artists? Have we seen that? Is that on the resources? Is some of that on the COVID resources page?
That's a great question.
Not through us, but through some of our partners. That's
a great question, and I'll be honest, I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. We'll have to look at that and get back to you.
Yeah, if we can grab that and Ed over at the Mayo Performing Arts Center is asking if we're hearing any rumblings from Trenton about mask or vaccination mandates for indoors. We haven't, not anything different than what we're all reading in the news right now. As soon as we know anything, of course, we'll share it with the field.
I could just jump in real quick. I know Philadelphia yesterday mandated that masking indoors for regardless of vaccination status. So that's like really like fresh news that came out yesterday or the day before yesterday. So that is happening in Philadelphia, but doesn't necessarily affect New Jersey. But just to know, one of our neighbors is doing that. And I think New York is doing that for Broadway, I'm pretty sure. I don't want to speak out turn, like making a definitive statement, but I'm pretty sure that they're mandating masking and at least masking for Broadway when it reopens this fall. So we are hearing things on both ends of New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, Broadway is, as Anita's pointing out. John Keith Davis also had a comment and wanted to note that art deserves to be allowed to exist in the least restrictive environment that is legal and practical. I think we all agree we want to be safe, but we want to allow the art to be art.
Great. Give it a moment. Are there any other questions that either Chris or I could answer, or if we don't know the answer, get back to you about?
I think we moved through all of them for right now.
Great. So I know there's some other updates we want to share. Do you want to take over here?
Yep, absolutely. So just a couple things. We're wrapping up here in the last, just a few items. One, just as a team, just a heads up, if you haven't seen this, in addition to all of our Google listings that everybody keeps updated and everything, there are now COVID safety messaging on Google. So the same sort of thing that, we've been talking about in terms of COVID safety protocols, you can now include that information on your Google listing, which we know is extremely important. So we encourage people, whoever on your team is in charge of that, to go make sure that's updated. To certainly be helpful for everyone. Big news for us. We signed our contract for the jerseyarts.com redesign. We are moving forward with that project. And we have the projected launch in the spring coming up. So I know there's a lot of folks who've given input. There's a lot of moving parts going forward within the team and our vendor and a lot of volunteers. So just want to thank everybody who's working on this project and just sort of teasing something exciting that's coming for 2022. This is just a reminder. So for everyone who joined us at the last webinar, we have some information on our website. I know we were very focused on promotion and marketing today and audience development, but obviously our advocacy work continues. And right now we need local folks to be working with their arts colleagues and with their local leaders, especially on the municipal and county levels, about American Rescue Plan dollars. And so I just want to encourage folks to go to our website, download this amazing little PDF that Anne-Marie put together. It has a ton of information, a lot of links to even more information to make the case about taking those American Rescue Plan dollars and putting them to work in the arts and cultural community. And save the date. We have a date for ArtPride's annual meeting on October 26th. More details to follow, including a time. We will be holding the meeting virtually via Excel events, the same way we held our Thrive Arts Conference. So more to come on that, but you absolutely can do that. And yes, we can put the link for the ARP download today. We can put it. Mary Trigg also is noting that the first step for any National Endowment for the Arts ARP grants, there's 2 phases of that project that's due today, and it does not take very long. She is right. I did it myself. It's kind of a notice of intent. Take you a few minutes, and then you have a few weeks to actually put the grant together. Jim, can you grab that link for the, go back up one more. Oh, Corey's on top of it. Man, the ArtPride team is all over it this morning. Thank you, everybody. Everybody's helping out. I'm putting it there. It's in the link. That's the link to the PDF. Thank you, Corey. I think we mentioned everybody on the team for what it's worth, except for Anne-Marie, who's on vacation. And for whatever reason, I don't know if I said Vince Hall's name, but just thank you to the whole staff, everybody pitching in and making sure we're doing a good job this morning. Our next webinar is scheduled back to Fridays. It must be summer's over. It must be after Labor Day. So we're back to Friday mornings in the late summer, Friday, September 10th at 10 a.m. Please join us for that. Put that on your calendar. And I think that is it for us for today. All right, we're right at 10:45. Just want to thank everybody for coming. We'll see you soon. Always be in touch if you have any questions, you need anything for us. Thanks, Chris Rocco, for being here this morning. Jim, thanks for putting this together. Everybody, stay well and have a nice day.